आज्ञाकारी तुम्हारी गत मित तुम ही जानी नानक.
Oh no. This is not the right direction. This is a problem. Welcome to the Enemies Within the Church podcast. You can go to enemieswithinthechurch.com right now to view the documentary if you haven't already, or give it a second view, or buy a copy for a friend. Go crazy with it. You can also go to EWTCnews.com. Again, EWTCnews.com to view the continued projects of Enemies Within the Church. That's where we get the EWTC from, Enemies Within the Church. And, this podcast, what you're listening to right now, is a part of that continued project. Now, I'm your host, Kyle. What are we talking about this week? I titled it Woke Pastors, Assassinations, and Pagans. Oh my. But my alternate title for this was Stop Doing This. You're letting them win. We're going to talk about both those things, but I want to address one thing right off the bat. Yes, the Preston Sprinkle series is going to be continuing. I just need more time to do the research, to do the writing. I got a little bit ahead before we started, and then that lead quickly ran out. I am putting the time in to make sure it is as accurate as I can be, specifically within the time constraints that I have. That doesn't mean I'm not putting in time. I'm putting in serious time. I think the last episode in total, just the immediate work on it and its article was 50 hours, not including the additional research that led up to that episode. So yes, I'm putting in the time to try and get down to the nitty gritty, to get the details so that you can really look at what does he say, what does he believe, and then examine a little bit of why it is off, if it is off. And so far, I don't think we've found something that really wasn't off. That's going to be continuing, but this episode is actually going to contain it's going to contain some stuff on Preston, because actually, after I had initially recorded this episode, I got an email from Preston's newsletter that drove me to the point where I had to re-record this, because it illustrates the point better than my ramblings did. So with that, let's get into things. What we're going to look at first, to set the groundwork for this, is a clip that I find very fascinating. The timing of it going popular. Not that anyone knew what was going to happen over the next week and a half, but just the timing is very fascinating. And I want to look at that. I want to look at this clip in light of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump and the Republican National Convention, because I think it's something very interesting. And again, Preston's going to sum it up for us. But this clip comes from Matt Chandler doing a podcast or interview or video, whatever you want to put on it. Definitions of things have become pretty loose nowadays, but from a conversation that they had, and again, it went somewhat not viral, but it became pretty popular last week. And before I make more comments on it, let's just watch this. This is going to be the establishing thought for our episode today. And it's going to be, it's got multiple things we need to pay attention to.
Yeah, here's the best thing I've heard, and I'll certainly say this fall. One, neither side is for us.
That's good.
Neither side is for us.
That's good.
And this is N.T. Wright, so I'm stealing from N.T. Wright, Michael Bird, Jesus and the Powers.
You gave him credit now,
the
sure.
book.
You say it.
No, this is the second time I've said it. So it's the third time where I'm going to say a friend of mine says.
Is it in the Overcomers book?
No, it's not. I should have. This book came out after mine.
Right.
But he said, I just thought this was brilliant. that the left wants the kingdom but does not want the king, and the right wants the king but does not want the kingdom. Goodness sakes, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it, Cray, and then I'm going to probably say it like I thought of it in the fall. I can't do that now. Dang it, we might edit that out.
That's good.
Isn't that great? Because that's my experience. Like you bring up King Jesus over here.
Yeah, it's like,
that's
well,
a problem.
Hey,
but you bring up the poor.
Yeah.
You bring up immigration.
Yeah.
You bring up, so even now, I know if you're writing, you just heard me say, like, Chandler's for open borders.
Right.
No, I'm not. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But that's the fringe. That's how they're going to respond to anything.
There's
you
no
say.
nuance.
So I'm not even like, whatever. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. And I'm going to let the crickets chirp.
That's better.
So that's a fascinating clip. Fascinating comments. One thing that's worth pointing out is wokeness isn't dead. Now, what do we mean when we say wokeness? That's not a generalized term or an insult. That is something much more specific. We're referring to cultural Marxism as expressed through critical theory and its derivatives, such as critical race theory, queer theory, so on and so forth. Now, because of the explanation I gave right there, you can see why it's simpler just to say woke. Now, we do understand that people sometimes misunderstand that. So we want to be clear about what we're talking about. It's not simply to espouse a left idea, an idea that's on the political left. It is more particular than that. It's when you get into the idea that it's not that we're supposed to, I think one of the easiest ways to display it for people that may not understand the difference is it's the difference between the LGB but not the T movement, and which is very much a leftist movement, but they're not a woke movement. The woke movement is the LGBT movement, the ones that are essentially the counterparts promoting queer theory to Black Lives Matter promoting critical race theory. It's the idea of this systemic oppression, of this scale of oppression, the intersections of your different identities, and the need to rectify these, tear down these power imbalances, these barriers to this perfect society, where there can be things such as oppression, such as racism, such as homophobia, without an oppressor. It's not individuals, it's not sin, it is a concept. It is a social construct. It's this idea that is out there, and the fact that the idea exists means that one group is an oppressor and another group is oppressed. So that's what we talk about when we say woke. Now, what do I find fascinating? Again, fascinating in light of where the past week has taken us. It's some of the things he said in there, particularly the idea of the left wants the kingdom, but not the king. The right wants the king, but not the kingdom. I want you to think about that logically for a minute. I want you to think about it. Now, it's an analogy. Yes, it's an analogy, so it's not going to be a perfect one-to-one connection to reality. It's a big problem that people make with analogies, is not realizing that they are not a one-to-one. It's analogous, not literal. So, with that caveat in place, think about this logically. Can you have a kingdom, a land, a domain ruled by a king without the king? Can you, and specifically, can you reject, say, I do not want you, king, but then still have the kingdom? No, you can't. You require the king in order to have his kingdom. So this idea that the left wants, now, what does the kingdom represent? Well, one of the problems is things are left pretty nebulous, not just in what Chandler said there, but just kind of in general when these people, I think actually just all people in general, we have a really bad time of talking about the kingdom of God, but not defining it. But to put at least a broad, based on what he said, based on other things he said, but particularly just based off of what was said here, we can get enough of definition. He's talking about the kingdom being social change. The kingdom is bringing about good in society. Now, is that the kingdom of God? That's a different discussion. What he's proposing is much more of the social gospel than it is the actual kingdom of God. But let's set that aside for now. So the kingdom, we're going to roll with his definition. The kingdom is social good. The king is Jesus. Can you have social good without Jesus? Can you reject, to make it clear, can you reject Christ, say, I hate you, but then still produce the good that flows from Christ? No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't have it that way. Can you be someone who wants Jesus, wants the king, but not have the kingdom? Yes, you can, but that's an impossible state to persist in. If you truly are pursuing Christ, pursuing the king, wanting the king, then from the king will flow his kingdom. You can't stop it. You have to rebel against the king. You have to reject the king in order for the outflow, the good that comes from the king, to be stopped. So a society that wants the king will necessarily be transformed and have the kingdom. Now again, social good is not the kingdom, but that is another conversation. We're using Chandler's definitions here. Now, there's so much that can be said just about kind of the manipulative nature of how he's framing things, about how he's attacking people on the right, and he's being much more generous to people on the left in the way he framed things, in the example he brought up about criticism. But that's not the main point here. What I want to put forth is the idea that the woke, the people like Matt Chandler, like Lecrae, who, if you haven't seen, we've done an entire episode. We actually did 2 episodes on Lecrae. One where we did just a profile looking at Lecrae. Another episode we had Dear Woke Christian on the channel, and he was able to talk with us a lot more about Lecrae. Fascinating episode. Wonderful episode. You should go check out those episodes. We haven't done a specific dedicated episode on Matt Chandler, but we have brought him up before, such as when he made the horrifyingly prejudicial statement that he would rather hire, in his words, an African-American 7 over an Anglo 8. Now, I don't know what someone's language, being English, has to do with anything here and why you're comparing it to skin color. But that's a whole nother just frustration with word choices on things. Don't call me Anglo. I am pretty much everything that does not like the English. I am Welsh. I am Scottish. I am French. I am Swedish. I certainly ain't no Anglo. Sorry. Things like that frustrate me. But what I want to put out there is he's kind of revealing things. The way he's pushing things is sort of like, well, he almost sets it up that the kingdom is more important than the king. And if we can get to the kingdom, then things will be better and we can bring in the king. At the minimum, he's talking about a compromise that we need both the left, the policies of the left, which bring about the kingdom, but the desire for the king that's found on the right. Well, where does that leave you? That leaves you on the left. Because the policies are what are good about the left. And it's only the desire for the king that's good on the right. Now, again, it's an analogy, but you can see in that bad analogy, you can see a little bit of his desires. If you follow what he's saying, you're going to be a Christian that moves what direction? Are you going to be a Christian that moves more to the right, more to the left, stays where you're at, whatever it is? No, you're going to be someone who moves to the left. There's no option on that because he presented the left policies as the good thing that we should go for. But are those policies good? No, those are wicked policies. Those are evil policies. Those are policies that kill babies. Those are policies that mutilate children. Those are policies that want to see more death. Those are policies that do not help the poor. Those are policies that do not help immigrants. Those are policies that hurt everyone. So it's problematic. But it reveals, again, he's trying to move people to the left. He's trying to get people comfortable with the left's positions. And the thing I'm going to put forth is it's working. It's working. He has been successful. Him and others have been successful in, by and large, shifting the church in this country. Now, does that mean that, the majority of the church has been shifted, they're all heretics now? No. He's not relying on that. He's relying on causing doubt, and in that doubt, it stops them from pursuing biblical truth, and they start to make the compromises that he wants to see. Now, give it a couple generations, and you're going to see something birthed out of that is fully embracing of ideas that he would probably even think are extreme. But that's one of the things is when you start this downhill momentum, you can't just easily stop it. This is one of the reasons when we need to pay attention. But again, I'm putting forth that it's working. And I think we can see the outworking of that over the past week. Now we're moving on to talking about the assassination or the attempted assassination. And what do we see? We see people on the left raging right now. Far too many people. I mean, you're always going to see fringe people, but way, way too many people raging right now that he didn't get killed or that it's a conspiracy theory, that the attempt even happened or that it was a setup or whatever it is. This is everything that they claimed about people on the right, they are showing that they do. Shocking. But one of the things I want to put forward is, though there's obvious extreme rhetoric, I mean, people literally wishing for, hoping for, calling for Donald Trump to die. It's rhetoric like what Chandler has put out, or Lecrae has put out, but in this clip, even in this clip, rhetoric like that made this assassination attempt so much more likely. So much more likely. Because what is he in the end doing? He presents the left as people who care, are loving, are taking care of people. People on the right are unwilling to care for people. They don't want the kingdom. They're hateful people. Functionally, that's what he's saying. Well, does that help the situation? No, that makes this rhetoric, it reinforces this rhetoric that there's this evil movement on the political right, and that Trump is the head of this movement. So if we cut off the head of the movement, the whole thing dies. Chandler's nonsensical rhetoric has consequences. Just because he's a little bit more upstream than some of the more violent rhetoric does not mean that his rhetoric doesn't contribute to that. It does contribute. It does help. Now I want to move on to paganism. Paganism. You already heard at the beginning of this. I played a little bit of clip from the Republican National Convention where we saw a Sikh prayer being offered. Now, there are so many comments that can be made about that, but as a Christian, that is paganism. That is worshiping a false god. That is worshiping a demon. That is a problem. Why are we promoting? Here's the big thing. Why are we promoting that? Especially when the whole idea of religious pluralism, of so-called religious liberty nowadays is not promoting. But it seems to be only Christians are allowed to not be promoted, but non-Christians are allowed to be promoted. And in particular, the Republican Party has been setting itself up as the haven for, quote, religious liberty, but that really becomes a haven for promoting non-Christian religions. Now, there's so much more that could be said about that and how the Republican Party has been setting itself up as, oh, be quiet, Christians, you're overrepresented. We need to elevate these voices. That might sound like a certain topic we like to talk about here. And that's a concern. But okay, let's just watch the clip so we have context, and then unpack a little bit of why I want to bring this up in the context of that Chandler clip.
So आज्ञाकारी तुम्हारी गत मित तुम ही जानी नानक दास सदा कुर्बानी. Dear Waheguru, our one true God, we thank you for creating America as a unique haven on this earth where all people are free to worship according to their faith. We seek your blessings and guidance for our beloved country. Please bless our people with wisdom as they vote in the upcoming election, and please bless with humility, honesty, skill, and integrity all those who conduct the election.
Now, you can kind of get it from there, but she did clarify that she is trying to say that we all worship the same God. Again, she would further clarify that later, but that is her position. Now, it's not surprising coming from Sikhism that you would make a statement like that. It is a much more, well, we don't need to go into the theology of Sikhism, but she's trying to create this unity by saying we all worship the same God, but we fundamentally don't. Can you see the problem there? Oh, but you don't want the kingdom if you don't want someone preaching praying to a demon. Yes, we have religious liberty in this country, but that does not mean that all religions are suddenly good, or even that the government is neutral. We should very rightly not allow public displays of Satanism in this country. Why? Because they're explicitly evil. Explicitly evil, just because they try and hide and say things like, "Oh, well, we love all people," but then you see, well, then why are you basing your religion on Satan, an explicitly evil figure? And why do your things, what you claim is good is just all the radical political left, and many things that are just not good. And then there's actual Satanism behind the supposedly atheist Satanism. We have the ability in this country to go, no, promoting Satan is not a morally acceptable thing. That is a problematic thing, and we cannot go into your house and determine what you believe. But when it comes to the public square, this is not something that is going to be promoted. Now you might go, oh, well, that's extreme. Well, there are many religions that have horrifying beliefs. sects of religions or whole religions themselves? Are we going to allow one of the Hindu sects that promotes the killing of casteless people and eating their brains or turning their skin into a drum to beat the drum to get rid of bad karma? And those are real things, and those are not those are not major things, but they're not incredibly fringe either. And they're considered valid Hindu beliefs. But if someone were to do something like that in this country, would we accept that? No, we'd rightfully go, that's not allowed. And it's not simply because those extreme examples would necessitate doing something to someone else. We can understand that a belief is dangerous. Now, the government should not be in the business of censoring belief, but the government definitely has the authority to look at something and go, this violates our Constitution. When it violates our Constitution, then we can act. Now, all of this is to say, it's a big problem. Big problem at the Republican National Convention that we'd see something like this. Not that it's an explicitly Christian party. It's not. Chandler's actually right about that. Neither side is for us. There was an uneasy alliance for the past several decades between Christians and the Republican Party, but they've moved on. They don't see us as necessary to pander to anymore. And we see that even more in the promotion of Amber Rose. I cannot wrap my mind, even in 2024, I can't wrap my mind around a porn star getting up and being promoted at the Republican National Convention. I can't wrap my mind around that. A porn star, a self-admitted radical feminist, promotes Satanism as a good thing, pro-abortion, and not in the same way that many Republicans are now. I mean, like fully for abortion, and so on and so forth. Why is this someone that's being promoted? That's degenerate. I mean, that's mind-boggling. Why is this someone that's being promoted? But to bring it back around, to say, it sounds like an extreme statement to say, oh, this is the end result of what Chandler was saying, or this is what they want, whether explicitly or implicitly, or something of that nature. They want to see Trump attempted to be assassinated. They want to see false religions promoted by the Republicans. And now, one thing I want to say, we can have co-belligerence with someone, and if Harmeet wants to be out there with her own political party, and that party is explicitly against abortion, I will join her on that, and I'll be like, okay, we can have co-belligerence. You have an elected official, I have an elected official, they're both against abortion. We will work together on a bill to ban abortion. We'll coordinate, we'll get votes together. But when you say, hey, I want I want us to partner directly, I want us to work together, I want us to be politically bonded to each other, I'm going to say no. It's one of the big problems with having such a rigid two-party system that there's no reason to have, and we could end at any point, but for some reason, gosh darn it, we don't want to. Oh, goodness. But we'll talk a little bit about positive things towards the end of this. But again, it could sound a little extreme to say that the woke think this is a good thing, that this week has been a good week, and specifically the Republican National Convention has been a good thing. But let's just put it up on screen. Let's put it up on screen so you can read it as well. This comes from an email that Preston sent out just today, and it is called "Way to Go, Republicans." The Republican Party is hosting their national convention this week. I haven't followed it too closely for the same reason why I don't watch golf on Saturday afternoon. I have no idea what that comment's supposed to be. That just seems weird. I think he owes an apology to all the golf lovers out there. But I've noticed that there have been some interesting people to take the stage. People you wouldn't often expect for Republicans. For instance, model, former stripper, and OnlyFans porn star Amber Rose gave a speech offering her support to Donald Trump at the convention. Spoiler, yes, porn, and yeah. Yeah. The conference also featured lawyer Harmeet Dillon, who recited the Ardas, a Sikh prayer, where she prayed to the god Wahaguru, calling him our one true God, and went on to pray, "Thank you for creating America as a unique haven on earth where all people are free to worship according to their faith." I was so thrilled. Now, you might think there's like sarcasm in this. There is not. He will clarify as he goes down. This is not. He's legitimately happy. I was so thrilled to hear this coming from the GOP. Beyond thrilled, actually. Here's why. When a political party panders to the evangelical church through Christianese rhetoric and bad theology in order to gain votes and power and money, it corrupts the church. That's a big statement. Dilutes our mission and fosters a blasphemous relationship between the state and the church. How? When there are problems. There are problems. I'm not going to say that there are not problems when politicians falsely pander. But how is that a bonding of church and state? When presidents sell study Bibles or quote the Bible out of context to rubber stamp their agendas, or say things that sound kind of Christian in order to gain self-serving support of evangelicals. Okay, I'm going to stop him there. What about the left? The left does that too. Why are you punching right? It deceives the church into thinking they are on our side. That they care about, wait a second, that they care about the kingdom, that we are on the same team. You see a little bit of care about the kingdom. The GOP doesn't care about the kingdom. It's almost like there's a small theme. We are not. The empire is Babylon. He has this whole obsession with Babylon and empire. It's very particular. Just know that that's why he's saying these kind of things. And we don't have time to really go into exactly what he means today, at least. The empire is Babylon, and it has two main political parties. We Christians are members of God's global kingdom. Our multi-ethnic family has been scattered among the nations, and we can never be one with a particular nation. Now, he's using nation and ethnic super loose there. Super loose to the point where I don't know what he means by nation. I don't know what he means by ethnic. It's one of the reasons you got to be clear with your terms. It's why we did an entire episode, 2 episodes actually, me and Sam, on ethnicity. Super good. Go watch them. We are good citizens. We pray for the leaders of the empire. We submit to reasonable laws and break unjust ones. I don't think Preston breaks unjust laws. But our political identity is fundamentally different from any empire that gives its allegiance to power, money, militant might, and the supremacy of one nation at the expense of others. What? Okay, government was established by God. Do you not believe that, Preston? Government was established by God to care for its own people. Anyway, whose mission and goals are fundamentally different from and often opposed to the mission of God's kingdom. Well, what if we got the mission of this country in alignment with the mission of God? Like his argument there just doesn't make sense, because that's all you have to say, and then it falls apart. So thank you, GOP, for praying to Wahaguru and celebrating OnlyFans stars. It reveals that the church and state are actually are quite different, and that they should be separate. So he's saying, hey, because this helps me, I love that wickedness was promoted. When the two are confused, it wreaks havoc on the countercultural nature of the church. What do you mean by that? What do you mean? I know the words that you use, but I know you have more meaning to what you're saying than what you're actually saying. But when one of Babylon's political party acts like Babylon, it's kind of a yawner, or at least it should be. I long for the day when the American church will confidently tell political parties, stop pandering to us. You will have our prayers, but not our allegiance. So stop trying to pretend like you're one of us. That day might be nearer than I had expected, and it will be a good day for the crucified Lamb's global mission. How? How will wickedness being promoted be a good thing for the church? Look, I'm not under an impression that we're going to suddenly at some point become this wonderful, perfectly biblical nation. I'm not under the impression that we're going to have perfect biblical rulers, but we should seek laws to represent good things. They should reflect good things, not wicked things. How does that help anyone? That hurts everyone. How is promoting pornography going to help this nation? That's not going to help the mission of Christ. That's going to lead to more moral destruction and physical destruction. People are going to be destroying their bodies. I mean, this shows that even his narrative about Sodom and Gomorrah, he doesn't actually believe. If you don't understand what I said there, go watch our last episode or go read the article that goes over Preston's beliefs about Sodom and Gomorrah. But it shows he doesn't even believe his own narrative on that, because he's willing to celebrate wickedness and wickedness increasing. Sodom and Gomorrah weren't Christian cities, yet they were judged for their extreme wickedness. What is God saying there? That righteousness is better than wickedness. We should pursue righteousness in the country. We should pursue righteous laws. We should seek to end abortion. Preston's saying is the exact opposite. But again, he said the quiet part out loud. Chandler admitted the same thing. They show their hand. They functionally want wickedness to increase, and they think that promotes the kingdom of God. This is shocking. The problem is we feed into it. Until we stand up to this increased wickedness, until we stand up to wicked leaders, wicked candidates, wicked political parties, wicked political movements, and do something about it, it's going to get worse and worse. So it's time for us to make some hard choices. Now, Sam and I have already talked about how we don't believe that Trump is a good choice. And I'm not here to say don't vote for Trump or do vote for someone else or whatever it is. But what I'm saying is you definitely can't vote for Biden, and you need to have some serious, serious thoughts about Trump and what's the long-term plan. Because the Republican Party is, they just, at the convention, they stripped it of any robust condemnation of abortion, and they stripped gay marriage out of it, and they stripped other things out of it. Or not, they stripped marriage out of it, defending marriage against false marriage. They stripped that out. The Republican Party is going radically in the wrong direction. What are we going to do about it? Is there going to be a plan that people put forward to correct the course in the Republican Party? Or is there going to be a new party set up? Or is there going to be an infiltration tactic, sort of the same way that the Democratic Socialists of America are doing with the Democratic Party? Go watch that episode. we need a strategy. We also need hard limits. We need to say, no, if your candidate supports these policies, we will not vote for him, and you will figure out real fast that we're still your important voting bloc. We still have power, influence. We need to exercise it now before Preston's Babylonian empire crushes all of us. And Preston gleefully sings and celebrates as he is crushed underneath it. He hates his neighbor. Chandler hates his neighbor. How could you push wicked policies and claim to love your neighbor? They always do what they claim that others are doing. They claim that conservative Christians are the ones that don't care about the poor, don't care about the marginalized, the oppressed, the so on and so forth, whatever terms they want to put on it. Yeah, we're the ones that are standing up to things like abortion. We're the ones that are saying, hey, those policies on the left, they're not helping people. They're hurting people. They're causing more death. They're causing more destruction. They're destroying the family, destroying people's lives. This isn't good. This isn't good. But we still have a chance to turn things around. Now, the biggest way we have to turn things around, not only do we need political activism, we need more political activism. But you know what we need to increase 1,000-fold? Evangelism. Evangelism. Politically, nothing's going to stick unless there's a mature Christian base on which to rest it. If we want to see this country really transform morally, well, laws are only about punishing. If you want to actually change people's behavior, you got to give them Christ. So we got to give them Christ if we want to see things changed. And so far, no one's ever been able to stop that. Rome couldn't stop that. Rome can't stop it. Joe Biden can't stop it. U.S. government can't stop it. Preach the gospel and we can change things. Stop preaching the gospel, none of your political activism will ever work. But the important thing to remember with all this is it doesn't help if you've gone woke. You're going to make the compromise these people have made. So don't go woke.